Hi guys, and welcome to my reading wrap up for June. I was really happy with how much I got read in June. I think I read 9 books. So I was really happy with that. It was so nearly 10, but I finished the last book on the 1st. So I was good and I didn't count it. It was so annoying. I had like 50 pages left and I couldn't get that read. Annoying. So the first book that I read in June was On Dublin Street by Samantha Young, and that was on my Kindle. I read quite a lot on my Kindle in June. So yeah, it's On Dublin Street there. And I've read a couple of books in this series, but I've read them sort of out of order. I missed out the first few books because I was sent the later ones for review, so it was all very annoying. So I went back and I read this one. And I'm really glad I did because I enjoyed this one more than the other books that I'd read. So really glad. It's an adult sort of contemporary romance series. There's definitely some sexy times in there as well. It's not like wholly erotic fiction though. I wouldn't describe it as that. I'd say it's an adult contemporary romance. Really enjoyed it. Glad I went back and read it. So much so that I then read Until Fountain Bridge by Samantha Young, which is sort of book number 1.5. It's a novella that is about how two characters that you see in the first one finally get together. It was good. I really enjoyed it. But I do wish that they'd had their own book. A lot of it was just sort of things that we'd already seen in On Dublin Street, but just through their eyes. So I feel like they should have got their own book. I gave On Dublin Street 4.5 out of 5, and I gave Until Fountain Bridge 4 out of 5. The next book that I read was Revenge Best Served Hot by Jackie Braun, and this one I just wanted a really light, fluffy read, and that's definitely what this gave me. It's about this guy called Brody. I can't remember the woman's name, but basically he takes over this company as its revenge. His parents died, and he blames the owner of the company. So he finally, years later, manages to basically take over this man's company, but he ends up falling in love with the owner's daughter. It was good. I gave it 3 out of 5. It was a cute, sweet little read, but not anything particularly special. Then I read Moonlight on Nightingale Way. This is book number 6 in the On Dublin Street novels by Samantha Young. Had a little bit of a break and then I went and read number 6. Really enjoyed this one. It's about Logan and oh my god, I can't remember her name. Oh, that's going to really irritate me. But basically they're neighbours and he's just come out of prison, and at the start of things they're very not temperamental towards each other, but they get on the wrong side of each other a few times, but then something sort of brings them together. It's really sweet and probably one of my favourites from the series that I've read so far, so enjoyed that one, gave it 4 out of 5. Then I read another quick short read that I got via NetGalley, and that's Hired by the Brooding Billionaire by Candy Shepherd. I didn't enjoy this one so much. It was really, I would say, old-fashioned and a little bit boring, a little bit stilted, dialogue not believable in any way, shape or form, cheesy, but not in a good way. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend this one, unfortunately. I gave it 1.5 out of 5. The next book that I read, I actually kind of buddy read it with Ryan from Ryan Reads Books, and that was The Martian by Andy Weir. This has been on my shelf for a really long time now, and it's one that I have wanted to read for a really long time. Really glad I picked it up. Really enjoyed this. Highly recommend it. At first, it took me a little while to get into. I love the main character. What's his name? Mark. I'm sure it's Mark. Mark Watney. I love his sense of humour, his character. He is on a mission on Mars with the rest of his crew, and there's a sandstorm, and they think he's dead, so they go and leave him, but he's actually still alive. So he has to try and stay alive on Mars until people know he's there, and he can be rescued. I really, really liked his point of view. His personality and his humour was hilarious. He was a real joker. Even though his situation is quite dire, he's not a self-pitier. His whole outlook was really fun to read. The only thing was I found his chapters quite slow when they were bogged down in the science. Obviously, it's going to have a lot of scientific language and jargon and things like that. It's in space, but it really was intense in some cases, and I could feel my eyes rolling back into the back of my head, like bored, because it wasn't interesting. Like, I studied science, and even I wasn't interested. A lot of, obviously, it shows that it was extremely well researched, and it was well written in that case. So I'm not taking any of that away from Andy Weir, but there was just some points where I could have skimmed, but I didn't because I'm stubborn. But I found myself wanting to skim, which is unlike me. So I found the chapters set on Earth, sort of around NASA, were almost more interesting because they weren't bogged down in that so much. But really, really enjoyed it. Really looking forward to the film of this. If you haven't seen the trailer, I recommend going to watch that. I gave this one 4 out of 5. Then after that, I decided that I wanted another light, fluffy read, so I read 10 Days in Tuscany by Annie Seton. And this is another short romance read. It's about sort of a businessman who is taking a break. He's on sort of a holiday, and he meets this girl called, I think it's Gia. I'm sure it's Gia. And she is very much the family's baby. They smother her. She wants to be an artist, but they basically say, they're not that great. They don't encourage her. They just want her to get married and have children, essentially. And this business, and he shows up and he takes an interest in her art, but he lies about who he is because he doesn't think that she'll like his family name because of all this, that, and the other. It was okay. I enjoyed it more than Hired by the Brooding Billionaire. But I still gave it 1.5 out of 5 because I didn't believe in the chemistry. I just felt nothing. The next book that I read on my Kindle, I've since had a physical copy of, but I did originally read it on my Kindle, and that is Grey by E.L. James, the kind of 4th book in 50 Shades, but it's essentially 50 Shades of Grey told through Christian Grey's perspective, as I'm sure everyone in the entire world knows by now. I have never hidden the fact that I really enjoyed the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. I know it's not for everybody. I know that it's not the best written books in the world, but I still enjoyed them, and I enjoyed getting Christian Grey's point of view. It definitely added a lot to the series. It answered a few questions that I had, so I was glad about that. There were some parts that I wasn't keen on, but overall I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5, and I would really like to see the other 2 books done in his point of view. And the last book that I read in June was Vicious Cycle by Katie Ashley. This was one I was super duper excited for because it's a sort of motorcycle club book. I really enjoy Tilly Cole's Hades Hangman series, and I am on the lookout for like books that are along the same lines because I love those 2 books so much, and I'm really looking forward to the 3rd book coming out in August. But I received this one from Headline for review, and it's basically, it sounds very cheesy, but it sounds very much like my kind of read. It's about sort of a motorcycle club sergeant at arms called Deacon, and a school teacher called Alex, and basically Alex, her favourite student is this little girl called Willow, and suddenly this girl doesn't start showing up for class, so she goes to her house and finds out that she's the daughter of a motorcycle club obviously Sergeant at Arms, and that she's not been allowed to go to school because her life is in danger. So she offers to tutor the girl, and then sort of there's a romance between Alex and Deacon, and the start was really, really promising. I was really, really liking that, but I found this book very, very rushed. I feel like it should have built more, to be just a little bit more believable. Everything just seemed to happen so fast, ridiculously fast. I enjoyed it for a quick diverting read, but Tilly Cole is still my absolute favourite when it comes to the Motorcycle Club books, hands down favourite. So that's everything that I read in June, guys. If you've read any of these books, or if any of these books are on your wish lists, let me know in the comments down below. I always like to know. Thanks so much for watching, and I shall see you all soon. Happy reading!